Hello and welcome to Strange Stories. It's great to have you here. We are all about sharing stories of near-death experiences from around the world in the hopes of bringing some light and inspiration to your day. Our daily videos offer a glimpse into what lies beyond this life, and we believe that they can help us all appreciate the gift of life a little bit more. If you enjoy our content, please consider liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification bell to stay up to date on all of our latest videos. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue to grow. And to our returning viewers, welcome back. We're thrilled to have you with us again. So go ahead, grab a cozy blanket, get comfy, and join us for today's incredible near-death experience story. Hello, my name is Dr. Lawrence Brock. My near-death experience occurred in 1976. I was in my early 20s. I had been living in the United States, specifically in Colorado, where I worked in a restaurant before returning east to visit my parents in Westchester, New York. I came with my roommate, who was also from the area, and we both returned to see our parents. We drove from Colorado to New York without stopping. We were tired when we got back there and drove in his car. I went to see my parents, and he went to see his, and we both rested for a while. I don't remember the specifics, but one of us heard about a high school reunion party and decided to attend. I borrowed my mother's car to get a small Ford Bobcat, which I drove to the party, while my friend drove his car. We were partying, listening to music, dancing, drinking, and smoking marijuana. I was high, but not so high that I couldn't drive. People did not think twice about drinking and driving in the 1970s. We're not as smart as people nowadays. I pretended to be higher than I was in order to leave my car there and return the next day to flirt with the young lady who was having a party. I asked a friend to drive me and told the woman I was leaving my car there. I was almost back to my parents when I realized my sister needed to use the car for work the next day. I told my friend, and he drove me back to the party. I went inside to inform the woman that I was taking my car. I recall leaving the party and can still see the image in my mind. I don't drink very often anymore, and I'd never get that drunk. There are a lot of people in the images, and the colors are a little brighter and hazier. I didn't hesitate to get in my car and drive away. I remember leaving the party, but I don't recall walking out the door or getting into my car. It appears that I fell asleep and smashed into a tree. The next thing I remember after almost walking out the door was being out of my body, floating in the white light, not going through the tunnel or anything like that. Looking down, it was dark. It was all white around me, no matter where I looked or where I was. People kept asking me if I had a body. I thought I had a body. I didn't look down, but I felt like I did. Behind me was a large circle of various shades of white. There was a full silhouette of a person inside that was a third shade of white, with energy radiating off of it. Even a different shade of white with a hint of gold. The experience was very emotional and kinesthetic. I've been trying to figure out how to explain it for years. Anyway, it just felt like this incredible love, like everything was fine. With my head cracked open, I could see my own body. You can still see my scar, which extends all the way back here. Everything appeared to be in order. It wasn't like a party where everything was perfect. It was as if everything was fine, as if everything made sense and was peaceful. It's just a sense of knowing. I began to connect to it even before I mentioned it. It's like, oh yeah, everything's fine and good. The being behind me said, "You have to go back. Your father wants you to stay," in what seemed like a very short time. I knew at the time that the father was not my biological father, but God. So I returned to my body and awoke 3 days later in the hospital. Much of my understanding of what happened is based on what I just said. I had no idea what to make of it. I didn't tell many people about it for a long time because there was no internet. It wasn't like I'd ever heard of a near-death experience. It's interesting because after I recovered a little, I returned to Colorado for a short time. I was living there at the time. My mother persuaded me to return east and begin working for my father, so I did. After that, one day as I was sitting in my apartment, someone knocked on the door. Nowadays, if someone knocks on my door, I assume it's an Amazon package, and I don't even answer. When someone knocked back then, it was like, oh yeah, someone's here. I opened the door. There was this lovely lady at the door. She was the sister of a Colorado friend to whom I had mentioned my experience. I could say I told her about my near-death experience, but I didn't say those words. "I heard some interesting things about you. and I know someone who teaches about what happens after you die, and I'd like to introduce you to him. It was as if I knew this had happened years before, but only recently did I realize, wow, that is so cool that this woman just showed up at my door. In many ways, the coolest thing that has happened since then is that I have met a lot of people. That teacher ended up having an NDE, as did many of his students, and I'm still meeting these amazing spiritual people all the time. One thing I noticed after that, and it took me a while to realize it, was that my hands became warm when I understood people, touched people, and I did have a certain understanding that went with that. I wasn't sure what to make of it. I didn't want to tell anyone during those months. Then I met this teacher, a Sufi sheikh, and he began telling me things. The words he used struck a chord with me. Even though he was an Islamic teacher, he began to speak to me about Mary and the love that Mary had for God, which allowed the Christ energy to enter. Wow, that was the feeling I had during my NDE, I realized. Then he began talking about Jesus, and I realized the being behind me was Jesus directing me. Even as I say that, I can feel the love pouring in. It's so cool that I get tingles all over my body. The healing aspect emerged. That guy, the Sufi sheikh, used to tell me, "You don't need to know that," whenever I asked him a question. He explained some of my experiences to me so that I could put them into words. So I began studying with him, then with other teachers, and this evolved. It's such a unique reference. When people have an NDE nowadays, they think, oh, something happened. I didn't think because I didn't know what to make of it. Still, I guess not knowing was a blessing in disguise because knowing something limits it in some ways. The part in the NDE is so, I don't know how to describe it, but you can see my hands going, it's infinite. So there was that part of not knowing, and I've studied a lot even now. I studied with other teachers, I went to school. And I still realize that I only know a very small portion of what is available, so my mind is open to learning more. It's changed me, and by that I mean that I now help people all over the world. I connect to the energy I felt in my NDE, and it helps me. There's no denying it in that way. So what happened? Was it all a figment of my imagination? I'm not sure. To tell you the truth, I don't really care. I mean, I know, but it's up to them if they doubt it. There's no I read. So the Sufi sheikh was a teacher of the Mevlevi dervishes who followed the teachings of Jalaluddin Rumi, the poet who many people are familiar with. So I read that he wrote a book called the Masnawi that contained all of his teachings and these 3-volume, 6-book, 3-volume thing. And I recently read something about how he's always trying to explain how love on the physical or spiritual level is a telescope to God. And how he's always trying to explain the love. And then every time he experiences it, he's ashamed of his explanation, and that's how it feels. And then it goes, even though I explain it and make sense of it, and I forget the exact wording, but it's good, but then it says, thoughtless love is better, and real love is way better. And that feeling of being ashamed of the explanation is how it feels, because there is, people get it, but there is no way to explain it. Everyone has experienced something similar in their lives, whether it was with their children or with someone with whom they simply connect in some inexplicable way, and it simply opens their heart. And it's kind of funny because I try to tell my daughter, think of the thing you love most in the world and multiply it by 1,000,000, and you'll have some idea of how much I love you. And how much I love her is the closest thing I've discovered to, how that feeling and the love from God are. So, I don't know, we're trying to explain something that can't be explained. And I know, I read online a lot of times where people who haven't had those experiences try to talk about it. And it's like, I don't know what to say to you because there's no way to get it through until you have some of those experiences. Write in your journal and believe that you have some amazing gift inside of you, whatever it may be. Everyone has a gift, whether it's cooking, cleaning, I do electrical work as well, do repairs in my house. These are gifts. To truly embrace them in the way that you appreciate that they're gifts from God, your positive qualities, intellect, whatever it is that you're good at. I feel like a gift from God, and I appreciate it.